When the call came in, it sounded routine, a welfare check in one of Long Island's richest neighborhoods. But what Officer Callahan found inside the house on Mill River Road would haunt him for years. The house stood like a painting, still, immaculate, and unnervingly quiet. At 9:46 a.m. on March 4th, Officer Daniel Callahan of the old Brookville Police Department pulled into the circular driveway of 24 Mill River Road. The front gate was open. The black Mercedes, usually parked by the garage, was gone. The dispatcher's note read, "Concerned neighbor, no contact for 48 hours." The air that morning was cold enough to bite. Callahan pushed the doorbell once, twice. No answer. He circled around, past manicured hedges and a still pond reflecting the grey sky. Everything screamed money and control, which made the open side door feel wrong. Inside, the temperature dropped further. The smell of expensive candles and something faintly metallic hung in the air. On the marble island, 2 glasses of wine sat half full. The dining table had plates arranged for 2, grilled salmon, asparagus, untouched. "Mrs. Zwang, Mr. Fan." His voice echoed back, swallowed by the hallways. Upstairs, the master bedroom was pristine, bed made, closet open. In the corner, a phone charger blinked with no phone attached. Callahan radioed in. "Dispatch, this is Unit 21. I've got a possible 1057. No sign of the residents. Doors unlocked, lights on." Then he saw it, in the hallway leading to the study. A small trail of moisture, maybe water, maybe something else, glistening against the hardwood floor. It stopped at the threshold of a basement door left ajar. He hesitated. Downstairs, the basement lights flickered. A safe door hung open. Inside, nothing but a stack of documents and a faint smell of ozone, like burnt wiring. On the counter nearby sat an empty jewelry case and a single silver cufflink. Callahan froze when his flashlight hit the sink. A smartphone lay submerged in water. Screen cracked, still buzzing faintly, like a heart that refused to die. He turned it over, revealing the lock screen photo, a smiling couple in front of the same house, holding champagne flutes, the caption, "Our dream home." Callahan whispered almost to himself, "Not anymore." Outside, sirens began to approach, painting red and blue across the mansion's white walls. But even as backup arrived, one truth hung in the air. This wasn't a burglary. It was a disappearance. In old Brookville, the kind of quiet that money buys feels almost sacred. Gated driveways, lawn sprinklers timed to perfection, security cameras watching everything, yet seeing nothing. Peishuan Fan and his wife, Zwang, fit right in. The couple had lived there for nearly 8 years, long enough for everyone to know their names, but not long enough for anyone to really know them. Peishuan was 48, an engineer who once worked for a major semiconductor firm before launching a private tech consultancy. His clients were mostly overseas, discreet, wealthy, and invisible. JuanJuan, 44, ran an interior design business from home, her company known for importing high-end Italian marble and lighting for New York mansions. They were the couple everyone admired, elegant, self-made, and effortlessly private. They donated to the local church, sponsored the neighborhood's fall festival, and sent holiday baskets to the police department every year. Yet, as one neighbor recalled later, there was something sterile about them, like they rehearsed being perfect. On Saturday mornings, they were always together, walking the path behind Mill River Park, matching outfits, rarely speaking. Their home staff said they ate dinner at 7:30 sharp, every night. Peishuan always poured 2 glasses of Cabernet. JuanJuan lit the same vanilla candle on the counter. Rituals, predictable, controlled. But around late February, subtle changes began to ripple beneath that picture-perfect surface. Their gardener noticed Peishuan spending long hours in the basement office, often talking in Mandarin on speakerphone. He spoke fast, angry, then suddenly calm, as if negotiating. JuanJuan, meanwhile, had begun locking her office door, something she'd never done before. A week before they vanished, a package arrived from overseas, no return label. The housekeeper said she saw Peishuan open it, look inside, and quietly carry it upstairs. No one ever saw the box again. Then came the night of March 3rd. Surveillance footage would later show the couple leaving the house together, dressed casually, calm. No luggage, no visible tension. Just two people stepping into the dark. Detective Callahan, now assigned to the case, reviewed the footage over and over. "If you freeze it," he said, "you can see it, right before they close the car door." She looks at him. Not fear, not love, just resignation. To the outside world, they were the dream couple. Success, luxury, and grace. But every dream in old Brookville comes with a mortgage, and some debts, Callahan would later learn, couldn't be paid with money. At first glance, the footage looked ordinary. Two people leaving home after dinner, nothing more. But in old Brookville, ordinary doesn't usually vanish. Detective Callahan sat in the darkened briefing room, the glow of the security feed flickering across his face. The timestamp read 7:42 p.m., March 3rd, 2025. A drizzle shimmered in the floodlights of the driveway. The couple stepped out, Peishuan in a dark wool coat, JuanJuan wrapped in a beige trench, her hair tied neatly. She carried nothing but a small clutch. He locked the door, turned off the porch lights, and both walked toward their black Mercedes S-Class parked by the garage. The car's headlights cut through the mist, then vanished down Mill River Road. That was the last confirmed image of them alive. The footage ended 17 seconds later, clean, almost cinematic. No tailing cars, no noise, no alarm. Just two silhouettes swallowed by a quiet street. When the technicians slowed the video frame by frame, they noticed something subtle, a reflection, half a second long, gliding past the lower edge of the lens. Too small to be a person, too fast to be a car. "Could be a camera glitch," one of them said. But Callahan wasn't convinced. Or it's someone watching them leave. Outside sources confirmed there were no other active cameras within a quarter mile. The next traffic cam picked up the same Mercedes turning east toward Glen Cove Road at 7:49 p.m. Then, nothing. No bridge tolls, no gas station logs, no phone pings. The Mercedes and the couple simply vanished. 3 hours later, at 10:57 p.m., the motion sensor at the back gate of the mansion triggered once. A brief flash recorded by the home's alarm system. No one was supposed to be there. The timestamp was exact. 10:57:32 p.m. By then, Peishuan and JuanJuan should have been home for hours. What the system caught was chillingly minimal. A single blurred figure walking toward the house, carrying something long and thin, maybe a tool, maybe a crowbar. The infrared image registered for 4 seconds before cutting to static. Later that night, a neighbor's camera, 2 houses away, picked up an unfamiliar white van idling near the corner. No license plate visible, just the hum of an engine in the fog. No forced entry, no struggle, no ransom, Callahan murmured as he replayed the feed. Whoever did this knew exactly when to come back. That was the first time he wrote in his notes. Inside job, timed. March 5th, 2025, 8:12 a.m. Detective Callahan stood once again in the grand foyer of 24 Mill River Road, this time with a full crime scene unit. The morning light poured through the skylight, painting everything too bright, too clean. The team began their sweep methodically, from the marble steps down to the wine cellar. Nothing looked wrong. That was the problem. On the dining table, 2 plates of salmon, perfectly seared, rested cold. Forks untouched. A bottle of Bordeaux uncorked, 2 glasses half filled, one with a faint lipstick ring, the other smudged with fingerprints. A soft jazz playlist still played from hidden ceiling speakers, looping a saxophone solo over and over again. "Pause that," Callahan ordered quietly. The room fell silent. Every crime scene tells a story. This one was rehearsed. There was no overturned furniture, no shattered glass. Even the napkins were folded neatly. But in the hallway leading to the study, the light dust on the floor held faint skid marks. One short drag, as if a shoe had lost traction for just a second. The kitchen sink was full of clean water, too clean. Inside it lay a single phone, submerged, screen cracked. When a tech retrieved it, it buzzed once, vibrating weakly before dying. "It's her phone," the tech confirmed. "JuanJuan's." A faint scent lingered in the air, sharp and metallic. Callahan followed it to the basement door, still slightly ajar from the day before. The staircase descended into cool, dim silence. At the bottom, a room that looked like an accountant's dream. Rows of labeled files, color-coded binders, a wall safe built into concrete. The safe door was open, its lock wheel twisted violently. Inside, nothing, not even dust. But just outside the safe, crime scene photographers noticed fine metal shavings, evidence it had been pried open with precision tools. On the nearby counter sat an empty velvet jewelry box, a faint smear of makeup on its lid, and one silver cufflink engraved with the initials P.F. Callahan knelt, examining a faint crescent mark in the wood. Blood. No, rust, maybe from something wet placed there recently. He turned to his partner, Detective Ruiz. "You smell that?" "Yeah. Ozone. Like a short circuit." A portable UV light revealed a faint trail of liquid leading back toward the stairs. It wasn't blood. It fluoresced bluish-white, possibly cleaning fluid. Someone had wiped down everything. Outside, a forensic team combed through the garbage bins. One bag stood out, neatly tied, containing latex gloves, a broken key fob, and a torn piece of receipt paper. The only readable part was a timestamp, 10:58 p.m., March 3rd. The same minute the motion sensor triggered. Callahan looked back at the immaculate living room. "They didn't leave in a hurry," he said flatly. "They were taken, and whoever did this made damn sure the house looked untouched." From that morning forward, 24 Mill River Road stopped being a home and became a crime scene frozen in time. 3 days after the couple vanished, the story took an unexpected turn. On March 8th, the old Brookville Police Department received a call from a local landscaper named Miguel Ortiz. His crew had been subcontracted by another gardening company, one that serviced the Zwang property every Thursday. "They didn't show up this week," Miguel said. "No calls, no texts, just gone." The company in question belonged to two men, Carlos and Mateo Alvarez, brothers from El Salvador, both in their 40s. They'd worked for the couple for nearly 5 years, maintaining the lawns, the greenhouse, and the backyard fountain JuanJuan loved. When detectives ran their plates, they discovered something odd. The Alvarez brothers' white Ford Transit van had been captured on a highway camera near Oyster Bay late on the night of March 3rd, roughly 3 hours after the couple disappeared. At 2:17 a.m., the van pulled off the main road into a wooded service path. It was never seen again. 2 days later, hikers stumbled upon that same van abandoned deep inside the Cold Spring Harbor Reserve. Doors open, engine cold. Inside, empty gas canisters, work gloves, and a tarp still damp from rain. But in the passenger seat, detectives found something that would reframe the case. A receipt from a hardware store in Queens, time-stamped the morning of the disappearance. The purchased items included bolt cutters, duct tape, and bleach. "It's either the sloppiest cover-up we've ever seen," Ruiz muttered, "or someone's planting evidence." Crime Lab dusted the van. Prints matched the Alvarez brothers, and, faintly, JuanJuan's on the door handle. FBI analysts joined the investigation that same week. Using cell tower data, they traced both brothers' phones to the old Brookville area between 9:50 and 11 p.m. on March 3rd, precisely the window when the home's motion sensor had been triggered. By now, the press had caught on. Millionaire couple vanishes from Long Island estate. Workers missing too. Satellite trucks lined Mill River Road. Helicopters circled above. Neighbors whispered theories over garden fences, that the couple had been kidnapped for ransom, or that the gardeners had snapped after years of quiet resentment. But nothing fit. No ransom came. No bodies surfaced. A week later, on March 12th, state troopers spotted a 1999 Honda Civic registered to Carlos Alvarez at a rest stop in New Jersey. When they approached, the car was empty, but in the trunk, wrapped in black plastic, were 2 suitcases. Inside, bundles of cash. $2.8 million in $100 bills. The brothers were arrested hours later at a cheap motel near Newark Airport. They claimed innocence, saying the money was a gift for years of loyalty. Callahan looked at the photos from the arrest. 2 men, hands cuffed, eyes hollow. Loyalty, he said quietly. No one gives loyalty in cash. The interrogation room smelled of coffee, bleach, and fear. 2 chairs, 1 table, and a one-way mirror that swallowed sound like a mouth that never spoke. Detective Callahan sat across from Carlos Alvarez, the older brother. Heavy shoulders, calloused hands, eyes bloodshot from exhaustion. To his right, Detective Ruiz leaned against the wall, silent, studying every twitch, every blink. Let's start simple, Callahan said. You worked for the fans. When was the last time you saw them? Tuesday. Morning, Carlos muttered. I clean garden. They fine. March 3rd was Monday, Ruiz corrected. Carlos looked up, startled, then smiled faintly. Yes, Monday. It was a small lie, but lies were like weeds. They always led to roots. Ruiz laid out photos on the table, the van, the hardware store receipt, the cash found in the Civic. You expect us to believe this was a bonus? They pay us in cash sometimes, Carlos said. Big jobs, renovation, backyard lighting. $2.8 million for lighting, Callahan snapped. Carlos's gaze dropped to his wrists. The metal cuffs gleamed like a confession waiting to happen. Then came the part that made every officer in that room lean in. We didn't hurt them, Carlos whispered. They gone before we come. Gone? Yes. Man call us, say come to the house, wait. We arrive late. Doors open, nobody inside. Safe open already. Ruiz frowned. Who called you? Carlos hesitated. He looked toward the mirrored wall, as if something on the other side could help him. He said to guard the house behind the forest, just for few hours. What house? I don't know. Big place, near water, old wood smell. He raised his cuffed hands, trembling. We stay there 3, maybe 4 hours. Then man come back, pay cash, say forget everything. We forget. The brothers' stories diverged from that point on. Mateo claimed they were threatened. If we talk, we die. Carlos said it was a favor, not a crime. When confronted with JuanJuan's fingerprints on the van door, Carlos flinched. She opened the door herself, he stammered. When? Callahan pressed. Night, after man leave. She walked from trees, alone. The room fell silent. Ruiz broke it. You expect us to believe she just appeared? Carlos looked up with eyes that no longer fought. She looked lost, like she didn't know where she was. Then she gone again. He leaned forward, voice cracking. We didn't kill nobody, but that house, something wrong there. After 6 hours, both brothers were separated. Their statements mirrored each other in key details. Same night, same house by the forest, same mysterious man who never gave a name. FBI later confirmed a private property matching that vague description near Oyster Bay Cove, roughly 10 miles from where the van was found. Callahan's pen stopped mid-note. If there's a house, he said quietly, it's where the ghosts started talking. Within a week, old Brookville stopped being quiet. Satellite vans lined the entrance of Mill River Road. Reporters stood in front of the iron gates, microphones catching the wind. Neighbors who once smiled politely now whispered through half-opened doors. The disappearance of Peishuan Fan and Zwang wasn't just a mystery, it was contamination. It stained every white fence, every manicured hedge, every illusion of safety. Local news anchors said the words over and over: wealthy couple, foul play suspected, missing without a trace. But what the cameras couldn't capture was the invisible fracture inside the neighborhood itself. At Café Verity, where the community gathered each morning, the theories multiplied faster than the foam on their cappuccinos. "I heard they were laundering money for China," one man muttered. No, they were kidnapped by the same people they did business with," another insisted. "Or maybe they faked it, staged everything to run away." Everyone had a version. Everyone wanted to sound informed. The quiet racism beneath suburbia's politeness started to show. One woman told a reporter off camera, "They were foreign. You never really know what's going on behind closed doors like that." Meanwhile, the Chinese-American community in Queens was divided. Some came forward to describe Peishuan as disciplined, business-smart, generous. Others whispered darker stories of debts, offshore deals, and friends who could make people disappear. Detective Callahan spent hours chasing each rumor, most of them collapsing under their own weight. But one detail kept reappearing. Multiple neighbors recalled seeing a dark SUV idling near the estate several nights before the disappearance. No one reported it at the time because no one wanted to get involved. One gardener from a nearby property told officers he'd heard voices behind the Zwang house 2 nights before the vanishing. Low, male, speaking in Mandarin. "Sounded angry," he said, "like fighting but quiet, the kind where you don't want the neighbors to hear." Inside the police station, the phones rang constantly. Anonymous tips, conspiracy threads, psychic callers claiming visions near water. The media spun it all into spectacle, the mansion mystery of Mill River Road. But for Callahan, it wasn't spectacle, it was suffocation. The case was collapsing under noise. Late one night, standing outside the cordoned house, he watched the rain collect on the front steps. The same steps where the couple had last been seen alive. He could still smell the faint scent of vanilla candle from inside, a ghost of normalcy. "You ever think," Ruiz asked beside him, "maybe the neighborhood's lying too?" "Not lying," Callahan said, "just too scared to tell the truth." In old Brookville, fear was contagious, and silence the only thing spreading faster than rumor. It was the smallest detail that cracked the investigation open. While combing through the mansion a second time, a forensics tech named Lena Morris noticed something behind a stair panel, a hidden compartment sealed with a magnetic lock. Inside lay a portable hard drive wrapped in silk cloth and a single business card with 3 letters embossed in silver, JZ. When the drive was plugged in at the crime lab, its encrypted folders opened like nesting dolls, file after file labeled accounts, exports, partners. Inside those, an Excel document simply titled Mirror. It wasn't a ledger, it was a map, transactions, offshore transfers, layered corporations stretching from New York to Singapore to the Cayman Islands. Over $6.5 million moved in quiet increments, all tied to the same initials, JZ Holdings Limited. Detective Callahan exhaled. "JuanJuan Zwang," he murmured. "She didn't just design interiors, she built shells." The data trail was too complex for local police. Within 48 hours, FBI Financial Crimes Division took over. Special Agent Evelyn Cho described it bluntly at the briefing. "This isn't about 2 missing people anymore. This is about someone cleaning up a network before it burns." As the FBI analyzed each transfer, patterns emerged. Payments sent in even numbers, recurring dates matching company shipments that didn't exist. Several of the shell companies were registered under addresses that led to abandoned warehouses in Queens. Others led to law firms in Singapore specializing in international asset protection. When asked for comment, those firms denied all knowledge. The further they dug, the stranger it became. One file, Aegis Asset March, contained scanned passports, one of them belonging to Peishuan Fan, but with a different photo and nationality listed: Dominica. A second passport used JuanJuan's name, but under a different date of birth. Fake identities, Ruiz muttered. They were preparing to disappear. Or someone else was preparing it for them, Cho replied. FBI traced one of the last transactions, a wire transfer of $480,000 to a Hong Kong bank account opened just 2 days before the couple vanished. The account was closed 48 hours later. The funds vanished into a crypto exchange registered in Dubai. It was no longer just a missing person case. It was a financial ghost story. But for Callahan, the discovery left one question louder than the rest. If the couple really planned to flee, why cook dinner and pour wine before disappearing? He stood again inside that empty house, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound. The air still smelled faintly of bleach and rosewood. On the table beside the hard drive evidence bag, he found something overlooked, a small sticky note, barely legible under the UV light. If it happens, follow the blue key. No one knew what it meant. But when the lab checked the USB ports on the hard drive, one had traces of cobalt blue paint, as if a matching flash drive once fit there. That flash drive was never found. The morning of April the 2nd came grey and airless. A convoy of police SUVs rolled down a dirt trail north of Oyster Bay Cove, guided by drone coordinates and cell tower pings extracted from the Alvarez brothers' phones. Trees arched overhead like ribs, the sunlight broken into trembling shards. Detective Callahan stepped out first, boots sinking into wet leaves. Behind him, FBI Special Agent Evelyn Cho adjusted her earpiece. The forest smelled of moss and salt from the nearby bay, and something faintly electric, like rain trapped in metal. GPS puts them here, a text said, pointing at the handheld screen. Both phones went dark within 50 yards of this point. The search team fanned out. Drones buzzed above the canopy, mapping thermal signatures across acres of wilderness. Half an hour in, they found it, a narrow trail hidden behind a wall of brush, barely wide enough for a van. Tire marks, 2 sets, one leading in, one leading out, but shorter, stopping abruptly in mud. Callahan followed it until the trees opened into a small clearing. There, half collapsed beneath ivy and thyme, stood an old hunting cabin, the house by the forest the Alvarez brothers had described. The wood siding was grey, warped by decades. A rusted mailbox still clung to the porch beam. Inside, the smell hit first: dampness, rot, and something chemical. Cho shone her flashlight. On a dusty table sat 2 porcelain cups, faint traces of tea still staining their rims. Nearby, a folded cloth, a silk scarf, pale beige with a faint perfume still lingering. It matched the brand JuanJuan was known to wear. They were here, Cho said softly. The team began documenting everything: fibers, footprints, residue. The floorboards creaked under their weight, revealing streaks of mud and a faint indentation shaped like a boot. Near the corner, a portable camping chair faced the window, as if someone had kept watch. Outside, a K9 unit circled the cabin perimeter. Suddenly, one of the dogs stiffened, then barked toward the marshy edge of the clearing. The handler called out, "Alert on human scent!" Every sound in the forest froze. They pushed through reeds toward a shallow depression filled with murky water. Bubbles rose and popped, carrying the smell of decay. The dogs scratched at the mudline, whining. When they probed the spot, they found a torn piece of blue fabric, soaked and frayed, stuck under a root. It looked like part of a dress, or maybe a coat lining. Forensics sealed it immediately. The fibers were later confirmed to contain traces of synthetic silk and perfume identical to JuanJuan's brand, but no blood. As the sun dipped, fog began to roll in from the bay, curling between the trees like breath. Callahan stood at the cabin's doorway, staring into that fog. "If this is where they died," Ruiz said quietly, "where are the bodies?" "Maybe," Callahan replied. "This isn't where it ended. Just where someone made it look like it did." The forest swallowed their words, the sound of their footsteps fading into damp silence, as if the woods themselves had decided to keep the secret. Money always leaves fingerprints, even when people don't. By mid-April, the FBI's financial forensics team in Manhattan had pieced together enough of the trail to find where the last pulse of Peishuan and JuanJuan's empire beat. At the center of it was a single account, JZ Holdings Limited, registered in Hong Kong under a shelf corporation barely 3 months old. On paper, it was an import-export company dealing in marine equipment. In reality, it was a ghost. No employees, no office, just a mailbox in Central District and a silent director whose signature didn't match any known identity. Through subpoenaed transaction logs, Agent Evelyn Cho traced the company's final transfer, $3.98 million wired out on March 5th, 2 days after the couple's disappearance. Destination: a digital exchange in Dubai specializing in cryptocurrency conversion. Within 48 hours, the funds were fragmented into dozens of smaller wallets, then washed through decentralized mixers. By the time they tried to follow the trail, the money was vapor. They were cleaning the books, Cho said, tapping the monitor. Whether to disappear or erase evidence, we don't know yet. Detective Callahan leaned back, eyes fixed on the scrolling data. So either they faked their own vanishing, or someone finished the job and took what was left, Cho replied. As agents dug deeper, more irregularities surfaced. 2 months before the disappearance, JuanJuan had quietly dissolved one of her interior design subsidiaries. The closing balance, $417,000, was transferred not to their joint account, but to an offshore trust in the Cayman Islands. Peishuan's consulting firm had also gone dark. No active clients since January, yet steady monthly withdrawals continued, each labeled maintenance. It began to look less like panic and more like preparation. Still, the human details didn't fit. If they had planned to vanish, why host friends for dinner 2 nights before? Why leave wine half poured and phones behind? Why not take the car they drove everywhere? A theory began forming inside the bureau, one no one wanted to say aloud. Maybe it wasn't their plan, Cho said. Maybe someone forced them to finish someone else's. Around that same time, the lab report from the Oyster Bay cabin arrived. No DNA, no blood. But microscopic traces of bleach mixed with salt water, the same chemical pattern found in high-end cleaning products used in yachts. The connection was small, but enough. FBI cross-referenced all boat owners registered under any entity connected to JZ Holdings. One stood out, a private marina in Port Washington, leased under an alias, Eleanor Tsai. Security footage from that dock showed a figure loading heavy duffel bags onto a small cruiser the night of March 4th, around 11:30 p.m. The figure was blurred, hooded, but body proportions suggested a woman. Could be JuanJuan, Ruiz said, narrowing his eyes. Or someone who wanted us to think it was, Callahan replied. No fingerprints were found on the boat. It was discovered 2 weeks later adrift near Gardiner's Bay, empty, engine idling, battery drained. The case had expanded beyond old Brookville now, beyond New York even. And yet, the question that haunted everyone most remained simple. Were Peishuan and JuanJuan running from something, or for someone else? By summer, the house at 24 Mill River Road had turned into something else. Not a home, not yet a relic, just a shell that refused to breathe. The police tape was gone, the case technically open but dormant. The FBI had packed their evidence boxes and left, but the neighbors said the mansion never really went dark. Grass grew high along the stone driveway. The fountain out front, once crystal blue, had turned murky green, its angel statue chipped at the wing. Mail piled behind the wrought iron gate, yellowing under the July sun. And yet, every night, almost exactly 9 p.m., the lights in the master bedroom flickered on. Automatically, perhaps, or maybe not. From her kitchen window across the street, Mrs. Diane Keller, a retired teacher, claimed she saw movement once. A silhouette near the curtains, like someone pacing. Her husband told her it was the security system's timer. She stopped arguing, but she stopped sleeping too. The housekeeper, the only one who ever dared step inside again, said the air always felt charged, like static before a storm. "You open the door and you feel it," she told police quietly. "Like someone's still there, waiting." Inside, nothing had changed. The plates were still set on the dining table, covered in a thin layer of dust. A single shoe print remained near the basement door, laminated by evidence techs months earlier. The faint smell of vanilla candles still lingered, now mixed with mildew and thyme. When Callahan returned to the property that August for a follow-up check, he paused by the window where the reflection of the two wine glasses once appeared on camera. The light from outside struck the glass just right, and for a moment he thought he saw a shape behind the reflection, a woman's outline. He blinked, and it was gone. He stood in the doorway for a long time before whispering, almost to himself, "You either left this place, or it kept you." Reporters had moved on to newer stories, but online forums still buzzed with theories. Witness protection, cartel involvement, double suicide, organ trade, human trafficking. Some even called it the ghost mansion of Long Island. One late evening in September, a patrol unit driving past the property reported the gates slightly open. When they checked, the padlock was intact. No sign of forced entry. Inside, though, one thing was different. On the dining table lay a new object that hadn't been catalogued before. A single blue USB drive, dustless, perfectly centered on the wood. No fingerprints, no traces of DNA. But engraved on its plastic case were 3 words scratched by hand. "Follow the key." When Detective Callahan received the evidence photo the next morning, he said nothing. He just stared at it for a long time, then closed the file. By fall, the mansion had been officially listed for sale. No one bought it, and the lights kept turning on at 9. Months passed, seasons changed, but the case of Peishuan Fan and JuanJuan Zwang remained frozen, half fact, half ghost story. The FBI kept the files classified, citing ongoing international inquiry. No arrests were ever made for homicide. The Alvarez brothers pled guilty to possession of stolen cash and were sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. They never changed their story. When interviewed years later, Carlos Alvarez repeated the same line through a prison phone. "They weren't dead when we left. They were watching us." He refused to explain what that meant. Detective Callahan retired not long after. Colleagues said the old Brookville case was the one that never left him. He stopped drinking coffee, stopped watching the news, and eventually stopped talking about work altogether. In his apartment, a single file box sat under his desk, labeled Mill River Road. Inside, the last photograph taken from the scene, the blue USB drive, sealed in an evidence bag, still encrypted. The Bureau's digital lab had never managed to open it. Every attempt triggered an auto-wipe sequence. Whatever it held, it was locked forever, like the story itself. To the public, it became urban legend. The couple who disappeared from the mansion, sometimes seen, sometimes imagined. Some claimed to spot JuanJuan at an art gallery in Singapore, her hair shorter, her accent softer. Others swore they'd seen a man resembling Peishuan boarding a ferry in Hong Kong under another name. No proof ever surfaced, just sightings, echoes. By 2026, the mansion was bought quietly by a developer who never moved in. Locals say the renovation crew quit after one night, refusing to return. They spoke of hearing voices upstairs, faint, rhythmic, like someone pacing above them. And then there's the rumor that still circulates in old Brookville today, that sometimes, in the early hours before dawn, a black Mercedes with fogged windows appears at the end of Mill River Road. The headlights stay on. The engine idles for minutes, then vanishes before anyone can approach. No plates, no trace. Just tire tracks that never match any car on record. Detective Ruiz, the last investigator still active, summed it up in an interview years later. Some cases don't close because they can't. Not because of lack of evidence, but because the truth is already buried somewhere that doesn't want to be found. And maybe that's the cruel beauty of Disappearance. It lets people decide which version they want to believe. Were Peishuan and JuanJuan murdered for money? Did they stage everything and walk away rich and free? Or did something darker pull them into the silence that old Brookville still breathes every night? The house still stands. The lights still flicker at 9, and the files remain sealed, under one quiet label, Case 5271, vanished in plain sight. If stories like this keep you awake at night, the ones that blur the line between crime and legend, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Vanished in America Story. Because somewhere, someone still remembers what really happened, and one day, that secret might surface.